Just last week we had somebody whose sister had died, she came here. Somebody had had a problem with a taxi driver, she came here. Somebody had had a problem at work, she came here. This is where they come. It's a refuge in many ways, and there is nowhere else for them to go. Mind, as an organisation, is known as the go-to place for mental health. People who don't even know this place is here will direct their friends to Mind, because it's a national organisation, and it's known to be the place to go if you're struggling with mental health issues.
Mind is a network of organisations across England and Wales that provide support for people with mental health problems. Mind nationally do a lot of work on raising awareness of mental health problems, lobbying government and others for better services, and providing a mass of wonderful information for people to help them find out more about mental health problems. Mind also has a network of 140 local Mind groups, and there are 20 of those in Wales. North East Wales Mind is one of those groups. The local Mind groups are set up independently to develop services for their own areas. So each group will take a look at what's needed in that area, and try to find the money and the resources and the help to get those services going for local people.
It's hard explaining to your wife, to your mum and dad, to your kids what's wrong. Most nights I'd go and sit there and just look at the sea thinking, and just be on my own, be alone. I had a lot going on in my life. A car had crashed into our house. Where he hit the wall was where the kids played. A couple of years ago I'd had a bit of counselling for that. I noticed myself that I was miserable all the time. I felt that worthless. There was something in me saying that I didn't need to be here anymore. And basically my days were just sat in this room, and I thought, I've got to do something, I've got to do something. And I started to try and work out, is it best to go or stay? So I just weighed up the pros and cons of staying or going, and looked around me. I looked what I got, I looked at my kids, I looked at my wife, and as I started to feel better, this side of the chart was filling up more and this side was shrinking. I put straight on medication, which I said I'd never do, but I was that low. I thought, I've got to do something. When I started taking them, he said the first few weeks, or at least the first week, the anxiety will get worse, not better, and he wasn't wrong. When I went back to work, I thought, everyone's going to be talking about me today, everyone's going to be staring at me, and my head started spinning, and I thought I should just turn around and go home. But now I carried on, and I thought, so that I'll get there and I'm just going to tell everyone straight away. And basically that's what I did. Bit by bit, I went round, told people what I've been off with, not to treat me any different, not to pity me. I am getting better. I use music a lot to cope. I've had all this help. What happens to the people that don't get any help? So I thought, what can I do? And then it sprung into my head, why don't I set up a little record shop? I'd heard the good work Mind do, know about the funding that they don't get, and I want the people around here to know that someone's doing something to help fund around here. And my friend Emily, she's joined me now, and our aim is to battle mental health through the power of music.
I got talking to him about why he was doing it, and I was really inspired by the dual concept of both the use of music to promote mental health and wellbeing, but also the fact that the money's raised from it goes directly to North East Wales Mind. It's actually been really good medium to get people talking just generally about their music tastes and life, and very often because they see the Mind posted about the Mind Band that we also have, and we've got the Mind Bucket, that we've got lots of literature promoting Mind, and it's out there, there's no stigma on our stall. Music, I feel, is a really important part of someone's toolkit, particularly in mental health and wellbeing. Help you feel less isolated and lonely, and actually by creating your own playlist for yourself, or in actual fact making playlists for your friends, is really therapeutic. I think use of music. Males in particular, we need to really get men talking about mental health, and there's a number of reasons why that might be. Men, there's a pride thing, they feel it's a weakness to talk about having a mental health problem, they've got to man up and be the strong one in the family, whatever it is that's in their minds at the time. It's a big struggle, but the stigma attached to have mental health problems as well doesn't help.
Has died at the age of 41. Now, the coroner has said that Bennington apparently hanged himself. The singer's body was found at a private residence in Los Angeles. The band recently released their 7th album. That's 17 years after their hugely popular album Hybrid Theory in 2000, a record-breaking album.
We sat down for 20 minutes. He's a very honest and open man. He's spoken all about his past troubles, and he's had drug and alcohol problems in the past, but he said he was in a really good place.
Is there any idea why, and any theory as to why?
Not as yet, and I wouldn't want to speculate, but he was very close to Chris Cornell, who was the lead singer of Soundgarden, who tragically died a couple of months ago. And recently Chester wrote an open letter on his website saying to Chris, "You've inspired me in many ways you could never have known. Your talent was pure and unrivaled. Your voice was joy and pain, anger and forgiveness, love and heartache, all wrapped up into one." And today would have actually been Chris Cornell's birthday.
I don't know if anybody out there can relate, but like, I have a hard time with life sometimes. Right. Sometimes it's great, but a lot of times for me, it's really hard. And no matter how I'm feeling, like, I always find myself like struggling with certain patterns of behavior. I find myself like stuck in like the same thing that keeps repeating over and over again. And I'm just like, how am I in this? And it's that moment where you're in it, and then you kind of separate yourself from that situation, and you look at it and you see it for what it is, and you're able to then do something about it. Like you've now broken out of that circle, that cycle. I know that for me, when I'm inside myself, when I'm in my own head, it gets this place right here, this skull between my ears. That is a bad neighborhood, and I should not be in there alone. I can't be in there by myself.
What are you talking about? It's
insane.
Crazy, man.
It's crazy in here. This is a bad place for me to be by myself. And so when I'm in that, like, my whole life gets thrown off. Like, if I'm in there, like, I don't say nice things to myself. Like, there's another Chester in there that's like wants to take me down. And so and I find that it could be whether it's substances or whether it's behavior or whether it's like depressive stuff or whatever it is, like if I'm not like actively like getting out of myself and being with other people, like being a dad, being a husband, being a bandmate, like being a friend, helping someone out, like if I'm out of myself, I'm great. If I'm inside all the time, I'm horrible. I'm a mess. And so for me, it's like that was kind of where I don't like my mind right now, stacking up problems that are so unnecessary. You know, that's where that was where that came from for me.
When I was a young boy, there was no such thing as poor mental health. You kind of, you just sucked it up, really. It wasn't manly to cry, it wasn't manly to tell anybody that you had a problem. And I think we're living with the consequences of that even now. You know, it's a sad fact, but it's a fact that the biggest killer of men aged between 20 and 40 is suicide. There was a suicide in my family, suicide attempt. All his problems were in the suicide note. If he'd have had a drop-in to go to, maybe he wouldn't have tried to commit suicide. He did it more than once, and the effects of those failed attempts actually killed him. But he was very, very unhappy, and nobody knew how he felt.
My job specifically is to run social support services for the organisation, and that's support for people with common mental health issues such as depression or anxiety, people who need a safe place to come. Do a drop-in on a Saturday 1 till 4, and on Friday afternoons we have relaxation classes and craft classes. Lots of things that are proven to help people's well-being.
Looking back on it, I should have told my wife earlier. Basically should have just put my hand up earlier, because looking back, I think I actually knew what was happening, and I was just too scared to admit it to myself. If you think something's wrong, just tell someone. It doesn't have to be anyone you know. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've got, how strong you are. There's a point where you have to put your hand up and say, I'm not well.
Unfortunately, people are scared. They're scared to talk about their mental health because they're scared of being labelled as somebody that, you know, these horrific terms of a nutter or all sorts of horrible terms, when in fact they're not. Practically everybody in some period in their life, in my viewpoint, will suffer from a mental health issue, and that can come from a lot of range of different things. You know, it can be from something like a bereavement, it can be short term, it can be long term, and we need to help and support these people and talk about it openly. The more we talk about it, the more it's accepted and the more help people get, and we will stop and prevent, hopefully, people from getting to that point.
If you think everybody's looking at you, your mental health is affecting your life. All that's coming from your mind and it's affecting your life. But we all know people who are suffering from mental health. It's just not so obvious.
1 in 4 of us experience a mental health problem at any time in our lives, but every year 1 in 4 people experience mental health distress. We all have mental health, we all have physical health. I see mental health personally as a spectrum, and it's a fluid spectrum, and I feel all of us go up and down that fluid spectrum. It could be any point in the day, the week, the month, the year, or a decade on our lives.
Where do you go when you're dying inside? Where do you go? Well, firstly, you come to a place like this, and then hopefully you accept the help that's on. If you're anxious, you're not the only one who's anxious. If you're scared, you're not the only one who's scared. And if you're shy, you're not the only one who's shy. You may think you're alone in your problem, but you're probably not. And you will probably find somebody in here who's got something very, very similar. And we can listen without judgment. And sometimes that's all people need.
Going in there and feeling listened to will just be the starting point for you for your recovery. For anybody out there feeling not quite sure whether they should walk into the door of mind, do it. It'll be the most defining moment of your life.
There's a saying which is open the door, mark fear, and there's nothing there. Fear is always in your head. But we all suffer from fear. We've all got a voice, but not everybody's listened to. To talk about it is the biggest first step.
Thank you so much to everyone at Castlewood Rocks. Your donations will make an enormous difference to the work we do and help us reach and support many, many more people.